So, if right now you move your personal attention, so it's like you move the personal awareness into your body, just feel how different that is from the personal awareness just being in the thinking. You can even put the personal awareness on the breath in and just feel that breath go into the pit of your stomach, right down to below your belly button. And see how alive this body is. Like all the emotions and the feelings. Now, to me, personal awareness isn't the big consciousness or big awareness, it's the personal awareness of like the small camera. So you can put your attention on the outside, you can put it on the computer, you can put the attention on my voice, but notice you can also put the attention on something happening outside. You can put it on what you're sitting on, your dog or your cat. You can put it into your hands. So you can put it in the external world and the internal world. You can put it in your breath. You can put it on your nose, on the tip of your toe. And most of the time, our personal awareness as humans, especially in Western society, is on thinking. So most of the time, the personal awareness does go out into the world, but it's often in thinking, even prior to going out in the world. It's still focused on the interpretation of what's happening out there. Before you get into this subject, you're not even aware that you think. I'm sure I've told you this lots of times, but I remember I did this talk. I did this talk to people in my mum's carers group, and I started saying, this is a thought, this is a thought, and they had no concept or awareness that they were thinking. So they thought that everything they thought was reality, was true. So they were complaining about the NHS system, which is the government-run healthcare system. And I was trying to explain to them it was a thought. Their anger towards it was a thought. It wasn't necessarily true. And this produced a lot of rage in people. And I was quite shocked because I wasn't trying to dismiss what they say. I was accepting and saying that's your feeling and that's your thoughts about it, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's true. But they had no sense that they were thinking. They couldn't see they thought. They just thought that was reality, that the sky was blue, that the ground was hard, that the NHS was shit, and that they were right. And they had no sense that's my thought. That was just the truth, the reality, the way it was. And then when you begin to get into this subject, you begin to see that you think, and that what you think colours your world. And your words colour your world. So your words, we superimpose our words onto everything. Like, we think for fact that a dog is a dog, but the word dog is something we've made up as a society and agreed upon, and we all call the dog a dog. Whereas actually everything is wordless, everything is mystery. But as humans, we've made all these sounds and we've given everything meaning, which is beautiful. I'm so glad we did that and that we can talk. But it doesn't mean that our meanings and our words is our reality. In fact, they're far from it. They're a tool. And we think in a particular way as humans. And that is in no way reality. And we can have positive thinking and we can have negative thinking. And both are relevant, but negative thinking can be more painful. And I think that a lot of people are often stuck in negative thinking, which is quite painful. So they're stuck in a lot of doom, a lot of gloom, a lot of worry and anxiety and prejudice and hatred. And then there's other people in society that have quite a positive outlook, and that's a lot more pleasurable. So they think things will work out, they think things are going their way, they feel like they can achieve their goals. They think this is a friendly universe. But it seems that those type of people are fewer and far between. Is that the English saying? Meaning that they're not as common as the negative thoughts thinking people. And I shall explain why this is. The reason, there's a few reasons to it. First off is society and conditioning and TV, and that our society and TV and conditioning tends to be more negative. It will depend on your parents' outlook and the way your parents taught you and the way your schooling taught you as well. And then number two, it's the nature of thinking. So the reason that we evolved to think is firstly so we could improve our environment, we could make better homes, we could work out together what caused bad survival, but we maybe wouldn't name it like that. But we as a group of humans, because we live in groups, we could work out problems together and solve the problems. So we could work out how to build a better house. We could work out how to create a constant supply of water. We could work out how to keep animals. We could work out how to train dogs to hunt for us. We could work out lots of things, how to have communal childcare, how to have communal education, how to share. But notice that the main reason that we begun to think as humans and evolved to think was to fix problems and to overcome obstacles. Now that's inherently positive. Like that's a really beautiful thing, that we're overcoming problems, that we can fix problems and we can grow and evolve and survive and thrive. But if all our personal awareness is in thinking, and if our thinking believes that we are a thought, that we are something found in thought, that who we are is found in what we think, then our self-image is going to be a problem to solve. Our person, our life, our happiness, our relationships, when we think about them and put too much thinking on them, it's always going to be about solving problems. So we're always going to be looking for problems. That's the way our brain works, is we look for problems and we fix it, which is inherently positive, but you can understand how that can go negative as a society, because we begin to believe we're the problem, the other's the problem, which we can always be improved, the other can always be improved. But there is a negative way of doing that and the positive way, and it seems to be that our society has got into the more negative way. Rather than seeing it as possibility to evolve and grow and thrive, We tend to think we're guilty, we're bad, we did something wrong, the other's guilty, the other's bad, the other did something wrong, our society's guilty, bad, did something wrong. And these types of thought have a physical effect on the body. This type of negative thinking will make you tired, lack of energy, lack of motivation, depressive, grumpy, and experience a lot of pain. Because when you think something, so say if you think you're guilty or bad, your body feels it as well. And then you're walking around in a society which is kind of in some bizarre way thriving off people having problems. So our advertising is like, there's something incomplete about you, here, buy this and you'll be complete. But it's the nature of humans. It's the nature of the way we think. But there's different ways in which we can think. We can use our thinking, which is problem solving, in order to help us grow and thrive. Or we can use it as a way to beat ourselves up and beat society up and beat others up. Not physically, but mentally. And it seems that a lot of people have gone into the negative way rather than the positive way. And it's a slight change in thinking. And this change in thinking can really change energy levels and sense of well-being on the human level. So if you are thinking that so say you wake up and you've got a list of 10 jobs to do, so all of us normally have jobs. If the attitude is positivity towards these jobs, then they're more than likely going to be accomplished and there's going to be enjoyment doing it. If there's negativity, then more than likely they won't be accomplished, there'll be exhaustion, it will be a painful experience. And if you keep repeating that over years and years and years, then it becomes a habit. So let me give you an example. So say, I'll just give you an example of what happened to me today. I'm in between moving and I'm renting an apartment, and I broke the cooking plate, like the stove. I didn't really break it, it just kind of broke and then it was broken. That sounds like such an excuse, but it was most probably I'd knocked it and then the heat like increased the break, and I didn't really notice breaking it, but it just suddenly was broken. And I live in France, so and my French isn't so great, so in order to get a new one, and also the kitchen's not designed so great in my rented apartment, so buying a new cooking stove didn't fit in the current hole, so I also had to get someone to cut the hole to make it bigger. Lots of different things. A complicated job. Now, you can go negative on that and you could think, why is this happening now? Why does this happen to me? It's my landlord's fault. It wasn't my fault. Why does life do this to me? Why is life always so hard? Why is this complicated? Blah, blah, blah. You can do this with anything. You could do this just with your door and one of your cupboards becoming loose. And this whole stream of thinking starts. Or there could be a positive looking at it. So that's not, because of my lack of French, accomplishing jobs can take more time. But rather than focusing on that, you focus on that you can do this, that my friend who's taking over the apartment will have a better stove. It will be easier to cook on. It will look better. and it's an easy job to do, and actually turned out to just be a 10-minute job. My other friend who speaks French was really close by. He came and made a couple of phone calls, and then I have someone coming Saturday morning, and it was like boom, boom, boom. A job that could have been complicated and could have been very difficult and taken lots of time ended up being 10 minutes. Now, if you have the negative attitude on anything that happens in your life, you're going to feel exhausted, you're going to feel tired, you're going to feel all these painful experiences. But if you see everything as a way of helping you, and you interpret it as positive, because who cares at the end of the day whether it's negative or positive? Like, it doesn't, like, what we kind of do as humans is we just kind of keep like plodding along and fixing things break, things, and we do all these kind of little things, and we look at everything as meaningful, and everything as not meaningful as in like the meaning of life, but meaningful as in like it's meaningful because it's happening, and that's the divine, and if that's meant to break now, that's exactly what's meant to happen, and that is the will of the divine. It's not against you in any way. And if every situation, if there begins to be a change that every situation is interpreted as positive, because who knows what all of that leads to? Who knows whether something's inherently good or bad? So why not experience more pleasure and have a pleasurable story? I remember when I first went and lived with my teacher in the forest. This is a long time ago now. I came from England, and England tends to be a very negative mentality. Like, I remember one time coming back into England. I hadn't been to England for a couple of years. I spent a lot of my adult life living outside of England, and the first sign I saw when I came through to customs to hand my passport in was not "Welcome to the UK," "Welcome to Britain," or "Welcome to England." For those of you, I know that for those of you that I'm English, I'm Scottish English, and I'm also British. We have lots of countries in Britain. Like some people, that's very obvious too, but some people that live outside of Europe don't know that. So sometimes I call myself British or English or UK. We have lots of names. So the first thing that when I came back into London wasn't "Welcome to London," "Welcome to England," "Welcome to the UK." It was, "Do you have a complaint?" I died laughing when I saw it. Like, what country does that? "Do you have a complaint?" And I could see all the English people like, "Oh yes," and off they go to have a complaint. So, yeah, so when I went to live with my teacher in Australia, he was very positive. Now, I remember thinking at the time that he was a little bit fake or in denial, or he didn't really understand what life was like. I thought it was like a flaw in him. But then after watching him, I realized how much it served him. Like, every situation he interpreted as positive. He could lose his wallet, his house could blow up, there could be a mass apocalypse or something, and his brain would interpret it as positive, as the divine law that this had to happen. It was a positive thing. And I realized that, I was there with all my negativity and my angry thoughts and my blaming and my guilt thoughts, and there he was. Even if to me it was a little bit simple or stupid at the time, I thought that, or a little fake, he was so much happier than anyone I'd ever met before. And And so I remember then putting conscious effort into seeing the brighter side. Now, not forcing myself out of negativity, because you can't, but just reinterpreting slightly to turn it into positive. Now, I don't mean being fake, because if you're being really negative and hateful, then be honest and acknowledge that, because first of all, you have to acknowledge it and you have to see it. You have to see this stuff, because sometimes people are really fake, and then you've got to go through a phase of admitting your dark stuff and your negative stuff. And then once you've admitted it and you know your responses and you see your responses to stuff, then you can begin to encourage positivity. And not by telling yourself off, not by being guilty, by just slightly spinning it differently. Like if you smash a cup, that's like, oh great, I can buy a new cup. But positive or negative thinking doesn't lead to non-duality, because positive or negative thinking cannot affect who you truly are. It's something that happens in the body, mind, and I do believe now, after working with people, that if the body mind has lots of suffering, so if it's in lots of negativity, then there's a lot of attention on thinking and trying to work it out and in the brain. So if you're experiencing lots of pain, which is produced by very negative thinking, you're trying your best not to feel the pain that's in your body. So therefore your focus is solely on your thoughts, and then your thoughts become more and more rapid. And your thoughts will always be time-based, so you're desperately trying to run in time. And I do notice from working with people that that has to settle to an extent to hear another possibility. Like if it's really dense, then all the attention's there. And then there can be this relaxing. Sorry, Sue, I'm just going to cut you off there because I'm still doing the introduction. So, so I think it does have to relax a bit. And somebody can become 3 even if they've got negative thinking, but it's going to be a more pleasurable body if you've got more positive outlook. But it does need to relax. When it's really suffering, then your focus is so much on time that this cannot be heard. So you've got this mind that thinks, you've got this personal attention that can put the attention on the mind, on the thinking mind, and on the body. And all of that's happening inside the body, we will say. I mean, you can break that down even more, but let's just say for now it's all happening inside the body. But there is another factor to it all, because that body and that movement of attention isn't actually experiencing itself. It's being experienced. So if a thought pops up now, you'll notice that there's something that's conscious of it. If a feeling arises, there is something that's conscious of it. And the movement of attention, inside or outside, there is something that's conscious of it. We think that we are alive, and that thinking and that personal awareness and the consciousness are one thing, and they're inside the body, and the I am. And that's who you are, and it's like a bundle of stuff. But you might begin to see that actually the consciousness is conscious of all of that happening. So your thinking appears, your feelings appear, and there's something that's conscious of that. And that consciousness isn't inside the body. It doesn't belong to you, to who you think you are. So you think that you're somebody that's moving in time. You're somebody that arrived in this room and that's going to leave this room and that's had life, was born on a certain day and dies on a sort of day, and you believe that person's alive. But that person is like a film playing on a screen. It's dead. It's not alive, it's not conscious. There is conscious of that. Now that thinking and those feelings appear inside the body. So your thinking appears inside the body. But your world is seen is a projection of that body. It's hard to say because so everything you see is the way your brain interprets it. So if somebody else's eyes will interpret this room differently, will interpret my words differently. So everything you see is an interpretation of that body, mind, that brain, and the feeling system. So by the thinking and the feeling system. So even though I say it's happening inside your body, it's kind of like a hologram because your brain is actually projecting the world. So the world is kind of inside the body. Like your world is kind of formulated inside your brain and then sort of projected out there. But all of that isn't conscious. The person doesn't contain the consciousness. There is something that's conscious of that. So that person that you think yourself to be and you think yourself to be alive isn't actually alive. It's a film running. It's being experienced. It's not an experiencer. So you, who you believe yourself to be, isn't alive. It's being experienced. So now when you hear my voice, the brain is interpreting my voice. So the brain is interpreting what I say, dissecting what I say, liking it or disliking it. But the brain isn't conscious of what I say. So the brain isn't alive. The brain is like a film. The brain is like a filter on this. Then there's something prior to the brain which is conscious. And that consciousness isn't a thing. This is so crazy and hard to explain, but that consciousness is also all things. So it's everywhere, it is all things. Like consciousness is invisible, it's not in a place, but at first we feel like it's behind our head or behind everything, but actually it's everywhere. Isn't that amazing? And we're always so confused because we think we're going to get enlightened. So we think like if we're more positive or we get rid of our conditioning, we'll become enlightened. Often that stuff has to relax to an extent, so you're balanced, or just there's not so much attention on you or contraction. But it's not you that gets enlightened because you're not alive. You're not conscious. You, the story of you isn't conscious. There is something being conscious of the story of you. Isn't that cool? And this consciousness also has a friend, a best friend, and it's called the I am. So that sense of existence is the same as consciousness. You think you exist inside the body, and that existence isn't here. But that I am, before I am Lisa, or I am Rachel, I am Henry, is actually everything and everywhere, and is prior to anything. It's so cool. So everything you look at now is yourself as consciousness, and everything is conscious, but no one thing is conscious. So Lisa isn't conscious, you are not conscious, because there's no one thing that's conscious, but consciousness is all things. I know it most probably sounds super confusing. And consciousness is what remains. And that sense of I am is what always is. You and who you think you are and what you own and what you like and what you don't like comes and goes in this. And the person is looking everywhere for this. This is why the person gets so tied up, because this is freedom. Remembering this is freedom. It's love. And the person, when it becomes totally cut off from who it truly is, when it really believes it's this limited entity and it's moving in time, it looks everywhere in time for love, and it will never find it. It's that which is looking. It's that which is experiencing this. It's that which is always present. It's not found in something. It's not found in your holiday, in your work, in your lover. It doesn't mean don't do all those things. All those things are what we do as human, but they're not going to give you what you're looking for. What you're truly looking for is presence. And some people, when there's already a tendency towards a more depressive, negative outlook, some people say, well, life is pointless and meaningless, so why should I do anything? And that's totally not what's being said here. As this begins to be remembered, then everything is meaningful, because everything is an expression of that divine energy. So going on the holiday, sitting, listening to this, sitting on the toilet, riding your bike, all of it is meaningful, because that is what life is expressing. It's just that before you were looking for love in all things, and the remembering of this reminds you that love is all things, and that you can't own love. Yeah. Hello, Issy. Ici in French means there. Ici, ici, ici. You there or here? It can mean here as well. So ici, her name's Khaleesi, but I call her Ici. So Ici is neither there or here. Or is she here or there? Ii, where are you? Where are you, Ici? Où sont ici? No. Où sont-vous? Où sont-vous? Where are you, I think. Où sont-vous? Où sont-vous? Où sont-vous ici? Où sont-vous? I don't know if that's right. The right French. Où sont-vous? Good morning from California. Good morning, Mark. Thanks for the scalloped potatoes.